It's a pleasure once again to welcome you all to this online course on inferential discrete mathematics. In the previous classes we have had a look at 4 different units of this course. Today we will start with an introduction to this final unit of this course. This course will be on lattices and Boolean algebra. We will understand how lattices are being built from what are called as partially ordered sets. We will have a look at a lot of properties which define a lattice, and further we will also learn the concept of a Boolean algebra, which can be developed to understand the concept of a Boolean polynomial, and towards the end we will also look at one method called the K-map method to simplify a given Boolean polynomial. To understand what forms a lattice, it is necessary to understand what forms a partial ordering. A partial ordering can be defined as a relation on a non-empty set which is all of reflexive, antisymmetric and transitive. Now you may recall from the previous lectures as to when we call a particular relation as reflexive, antisymmetric and transitive. To give you a refresher on the concepts, I will explain all 3 of them using a simple example. Consider the following relation defined on the set 1, 2, 3 and 4. I have 9 ordered pairs before me. Let's try and see if these 9 pairs together form a relation which is all of reflexive, symmetric and transitive. We have a relation here which pairs up 1 with 1. Let's write down the ordered pairs. There are 9 such pairs available before us. Let's try and find out if this relation can be called as a partial ordering. First up, let's see if this relation is reflexive. Turns out to be reflexive here because all 4 elements are mapped to itself. We have 1, 1, we have 2, 2, we have 3, 3 and also 4, 4. Further, it is also antisymmetric because for any 2 distinct elements we find only one of the 2 pairs present here. You can recall from the classes which we had on relations that a relation R is called as an antisymmetric relation if for any 2 distinct elements we have either AB or BA, but never both. You cannot have both AB and BA in the relation as long as A and B are distinct. Here we have 4 distinct elements present in this set, and the ordered pairs are available in this manner. You have 1, 3 but no 3, 1. 3, 1 is absent. You have 2, 3 but 3, 2 is absent. We have 2, 4 but 4, 2 is absent. You have 3, 4 but 4, 3 is absent. You have 1, 4 but 4, 1 is absent. So for all these given distinct elements, only one of the 2 pairs is available as a part of the relation. Therefore, this relation can be called as an antisymmetric relation. Moving further, we can also justify that this relation is transitive. For any 3 distinct pairs, distinct elements A, B and C, we will see that whenever A, B and B, C are part of the relation, we will also find out that A, C is also part. You have 1, 3 and 3, 4 that leads to the pair 1, 4. You have 2, 3 and 3, 4 that leads to the pair 2, 4. This way we will find that whenever 2 pairs AB and BC are present, we also have the 3rd pair AC. Hence the given relation is reflexive, antisymmetric and also transitive. Therefore we can call the given relation as a Therefore we see that the relation defined on this set 1, 2, 3, 4 is actually a partial ordering. We will have a set of examples to make you comfortable with this idea of a partial ordering. we will say that the set on which the partial ordering is defined as a partially ordered set. That's what we saw. Therefore, R is a partial ordering and A is a partially ordered set, because A is a non-empty set on which this partial ordering is defined by us. Let's have a look at a couple of relations and try and find out if these are actually partial orderings. We are considering only one set before us, the set A, having 4 elements 0, 1, 2 and 3. The first example has 3 ordered pairs 0, 0, 2, 2 and 3, 3. Clearly this relation is not reflexive. You can figure that out why. It is not reflexive because for the element 1 we are not finding the pair 1, 1 as a part of the relation. 1, 1 doesn't belong to the set and therefore it is not reflexive, and any relation that is not reflexive cannot form a partial ordering. Therefore we don't have a partial ordering as an example here. Moving further, we have another relation as a collection of 6 ordered pairs 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 0, 2, 2, 2, 3 and 3, 3. First up, it is easy to identify that this relation is in fact reflexive. This is reflexive because we have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2 and 3, 3. We have 4 pairs present before us. That is evidence enough for us to say that the relation is reflexive. Let's explore the possibility of this relation being antisymmetric. A relation becomes an antisymmetric relation if for any 2 distinct elements A, B, we will not have both pairs. Alright. Now looking at these 4 elements, we find out that you have 2, 0, but you don't have, you have 2, 0 and 2, 3, but you don't have 0, 2 and 3, 2. These 2 pairs are absent. They are not part of the relation and therefore the relation is actually antisymmetric, because when we select 2 distinct elements to form a pair, only one such pair is present and the other pair is absent. What are we looking up next is whether this relation is also transitive. Looking at transitive, we will look at 3 elements A, B, C, and whenever we have both A, B and B, C present in the relation, this should also imply that the pair AC is part of the relation. Examining that part, we see that we have 2, 0, we have 2, 2 and 2, 3. These 2 elements are the same. This should imply that the pair 2, 3 is also present, that is pretty much present. And we don't find any other example to say that this cannot be transitive, therefore our relation is also transitive. So we have a non-empty set on which there is a relation which is reflexive, antisymmetric and also transitive. Hence the relation given under this subdivision actually defines a partial ordering. Let's have a look at the next example. We have 6 ordered pairs before us again. Clearly this relation is reflexive. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2 and 3, 3 are present. Further, we also see that for any 2 distinct elements 1 and 2, you have 1, 2 present, but we don't have 2, 1 present, but 2, 1 is absent, and therefore when you have 2 distinct elements, only one pair is present, the other pair is absent. We have 3, 1, but 1, 3 is absent. It is enough if we check the pairs involving distinct elements. We don't have to focus on pairs involving similar elements, so you don't have to worry about 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2 and 3, 3. These 2 are enough for us to check what is happening. So we will see, we are actually seeing that the relation is antisymmetric also. So we have already shown that it is reflexive. Now we have seen that it is antisymmetric. We will check the last part to see that this is also transitive. To see that it is transitive, we will watch out for 3 distinct elements forming a pair whenever A, B and B, C are part of it, A, C must also be part of it. Having a look at that, we see that 1, 2 and 2, 2 are present. 1, 2 and 2, 2 are present. This should lead to the presence of 1, 2 again as part of the relation. 1, 2 is present, 1, 2 is already there, and you can check it for any 3 distinct elements that are part of the set. In fact, when you check 3, 1 and 1, 2, we have the ordered pair 3, 1 and 1, 2, but this should lead to the ordered pair 3, 2 as a part of the relation, but 3, 2 is absent. The ordered pair 3, 2 is absent, therefore the given relation cannot be transitive. R is not transitive on this given set, because 3, 1 and 1, 2 should imply 3, 2 should be part. You have 3, 1, you have 1, 2, these two should together imply that 3, 2 is part of the relation, but 3, 2 is not. This was not the case in the previous example. We found every pair of elements A, B and B, C leading to the conclusion that AC is also part of the relation. You don't find that here, and hence the relation that we see under subdivision C is not a partial relation, it's not a partial ordering. Moving further, we have a relation containing 9 ordered pairs again. We have 0, 0, we have 1, 1, we have 2, 2 and also 3, 3. Therefore, it is actually reflexive. Can we call it antisymmetric? For a 1, 2, 2, 1 is absent. For a 1, 3, 3, 1 is absent. For a 2, 0, 0, 2 is absent. For a 2, 3, 3, 2 is absent. For a 3, 2, 0, 3 is absent. For a 3, 0, 0, 3 is absent again. Therefore, you will see that it is actually antisymmetric. Now we will try and explore the case where this can be transitive, and you will find that this is actually not transitive, because you have the pairs 1, 2 and 2, 0. These two should together imply that there is a third pair called as 1, 0, but 1, 0 is not part of the given relation. 1, 0, the ordered pair 1, 0 is not part of the relation. Hence, you will see that this relation is not transitive. And since it is not transitive, it cannot form a partial ordering, and therefore the combination of the set and the relation will not form a partially ordered set. One more example, we have 3, 6 and 11 pairs given to us. We have 0, 0, we have 1, 1, we have 2, 2, we have 3, 3. That makes the given relation as a reflexive one. The relation is obviously reflexive. Next up, let's check the symmetric part, and you will see that it is not antisymmetric. This happens to be not antisymmetric because you can find two distinct elements. You have 0, 1, but you also have 1, 0. You are supposed to have only one of them present as a part of the relation. You don't find that happening here. Similarly, you have 0, 2 and you also have 2, 0. 0 and 2 are distinct elements, but both possible pairs are present in the relation. Hence, this is not antisymmetric. So you don't have to check about the transitive nature of the relation. You can clearly make your claim saying that the relation is not a partial ordering, not a partial ordering, because it is not antisymmetric. It is not antisymmetric. But we have already seen that a relation can also be expressed in the form of a matrix. If you can recall, in unit 2 when we had the set of lectures on functions and relations, we also told you that a relation can be expressed using a 0, 1 matrix. So we will have a look at a couple of problems in that format. We have the 0, 1 matrix of some relation. We are trying to find out if this relation can be a partial ordering. So let us assume that the relation is on a set A, B, C. So the row indices are A, B, C like this, the column indices are A, B, C like this. So let us write down, at least for this example, the set of ordered pairs that are actually available. We have A comma A, we have A comma B, we have A comma C. This is from the first row. We also have B comma A, we have B comma B. We don't have B comma C or C comma A or C comma B, but we have C comma C. So it is pretty easy to identify that this relation is in fact reflexive, because AA, BB and CC are part of the set. Therefore it is actually reflexive, but you will see that the relation is not, R is in fact reflexive, but R is not antisymmetric. This is in the same lines as we saw in the previous problem, because we see that for two distinct elements A and B, you have both AB and BA part of the set. You are supposed to have only one of them or none of them. It is okay if both AB and BA are absent, but if one of them is present, the other should be absent. So we have both AB and BA as part of the set, which means this relation is not antisymmetric. You can even avoid skipping the part where it is not transitive or transitive. You don't have to worry about the transitive nature. You can directly claim that R is not a partial ordering, because it fails in the second condition to be met. It's not a partial ordering. It is only reflexive. It happens to be not antisymmetric. Therefore we can skip that. The next example is once again on a set containing three elements. Let's give the indices as 0, 1, or let's call them as x, y, z and x, y, z. Let's write down the ordered pairs that are available before us. You have xx, you have xy, you have xz, you also have yy, and you have yz. No, you don't have yz. In fact, you have only z comma z. There are only 5 ordered pairs out of the 9 possible pairs on 3 elements. Only 5 ordered pairs. It is obvious that R is reflexive, because for the 3 distinct elements x, y and z, we find the pairs xx, yy and zz. So these 3 together imply that the given relation is actually reflexive. Now can you call this antisymmetric? Yes, we can of course call this antisymmetric, because for 2 distinct elements x and y, you have only one of the 2 pairs present. You don't have y of x also present. Similarly, you have only x comma z present, the other pair is absent. So when 2 elements are distinct, only one of the 2 possible pairs are present in the set. Therefore R can be concluded to be antisymmetric. R is in fact antisymmetric. So now that the relation has met 2 of the 3 conditions required for it to become a partial ordering, let's check the point where it we are able to conclude whether it is an equivalence relation. Turns out it is actually also transitive, because xy and yy should mean xy is present, xz and zz should imply xz is present, xz is also present. So you can't find justification that is enough to support the statement that it is not transitive. Therefore R is transitive. R is in fact transitive. So we see that R is reflexive, R is symmetric, and R is also transitive. Therefore R forms R is a partial ordering. And therefore the set that we considered x, y, z, on which the partial ordering is defined, can actually be called as a partially ordered set or a poset. We will stop with one last example. We have a 4 by 4 matrix, which means we are considering a set with 4 elements. Let us call the elements as w, x, y and z, which are the row indices W, X, Y and Z as the column indices. So when you start writing down the ordered pairs, you will find these pairs. You have W, W, you have X, X, you have Y, Y, you also have Z, Z. Now since this is true for all 4 elements present in the set, you can actually conclude that it is reflexive. Well, let's also write down the other pairs. We have WX, we have WY and we have WZ. Coming to the second element, you have XX and XY. The third element you have XYZ alone. The last element you have ZX and ZZ. ZZ is already there, ZW. So 3 and 4 and 4, that's 11 elements that are included in the relation. So we must have 11 ones in the problem. We have only 10 ones. 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 3, that's 6 plus 4, which is 10. Have I repeated anything here? You don't have WZ. WZ is actually absent, so this pair is not present before us. Alright, that's a mistake. There are only 10 pairs now, 3, 3, 2 and 2, 10 pairs. Now it is obvious to find out that this is reflexive. WW, XX, YY and ZZ are present. Now can we call this antisymmetric? Because for any 2 non-identical elements, for any 2 distinct elements W and X, only one of them is present. For X and Y, only one of them is present. For Y and Z, only one of them is present. For Z and X, only one of them is present. For Z and W, only one of them is present. Z and W, yeah. And similarly for W and Y, only one of them is present. The other pair is always absent, and therefore you can claim that the given relation R is in fact reflexive. We just saw that. And it is also antisymmetric. Only one of the 2 symmetric pairs is present, a maximum of only one of the 2 pairs. Now can we call this as a transitive relation? Can you select 3 distinct elements and show that you can always vouch for a third ordered pair provided 2 similar ordered pairs do exist? Let's check it out. Can we call this? Yeah, you can actually cannot call this as a transitive relation, because you have an ordered pair in WY, you also have an ordered pair in Y comma Z, but this doesn't result in the ordered pair W comma Z. WY is present, YZ is present, but WZ is absent. WZ is absent, and hence you actually see that these 2 are present, this and this are present in the relation, but W comma Z is absent in the relation. Despite having both WY, which is here, and YZ, which is here, this element is still a 0, this element is supposed to be a 1. That's not happening, and therefore the relation is not transitive. Similarly, you can also see that XW, YZ is present and ZW is present. Both these are present, YZ and ZW, but YW is absent. Now YW is actually present, or YZ and ZX for that matter. YW is also absent, yeah, but YW is absent. YW doesn't belong to R. YZ is this element, YZ is this element, and ZW is this element, but YW is absent, so this is not transitive. Similarly, YZ and ZX are present. That doesn't mean that YX is present. YZ is here, ZX is here, YZ and ZX are present, but YX is absent. Therefore, this relation is not transitive. R is not a partial ordering. Okay. Now we'll have a look at one more way of representing a relation. We've already seen two methods, one by which you express the given relation using the collection of ordered pairs in the form of a set. The second method is by identifying a matrix of a proper order and filling the matrix with ones and zero along according to the definition. There are two more methods. We'll discuss one of them first and quickly follow it up with the other. A relation can also be expressed using a digraph. A digraph is nothing but a collection of points which are actually elements of the set which are considered for a relation, and the points are connected if there is a relation between them, if there is an ordered pair involving them. As an example, let's look at this example here. I write, what does the arrow A to A mean? A to A means that this implies A comma A, the ordered pair A comma A is part of the relation. Similarly, we have B to B in an arrow, so B comma B is part of the relation. Similarly, you have C to C, start at C and go to C back, so C comma C is also part of the relation, and you also have D to D, D comma D is part of the relation. So you will actually see that the relation is reflexive, but can we call it symmetric? To call it symmetric, you are supposed to have an arrow or an edge which has arrows on both sides, because this arrow will mean that A comma B belongs to R, but to imply that B comma A also belongs to R, I need to draw another arrow. That's not part of the question, so I won't do that. I only have one arrow from A to B. That implies I have an ordered pair A comma B. So what are the ordered pairs I have? I have AB, I have AC, that's all. There are only two outgoing arrows from A. I also have B comma D, because B directly goes to D. C goes to nothing but itself, and D goes to nothing but itself. So these 7 pairs are what we have in any given relation. These 7 pairs, the AA, BB, CC, DD, which are 4 pairs for the 4 elements which are reflexive. And for the symmetric nature of the relation, you have only AB present but BC is absent, AC present, AC is in fact present, yeah, but none of it is a symmetric evidence that the given relation is symmetric. On the other hand, it just shows that the relation is anti-symmetric very easily. When you have two different elements, only one such pair is present, the other pair is absent. You have only AB and AC, you don't have anything else. AB and AC are part of the relation, nothing else is part of the relation. Therefore, you have the relation defined before us as a reflexive relation, but also as a anti-symmetric. But once we look at the transitive nature, it is easier to say that the given relation is and B to D, but that doesn't mean that you have A to D. A to B and B to D should actually imply that you also have a pair from A to D. You don't have the pair A to D, therefore R is not transitive. And since it is not transitive, you don't have to worry about the actual set forming a partial ordered set that's absent. Let's consider a different example similar to the previous one. Let's write down the ordered pairs. You directly have the reflexive pairs AA, BB, CC and DD. They are the 4 pairs that are present. In addition, you also have AB, AC and AD. You have these 3 pairs, whereas the element B has only one pair coming into itself, that is from D. So you have D comma B, and that's all. You don't have anything more. Or do you have C comma A somewhere? Yes, we do have C comma A, C comma D. In fact, we have C comma D as part of the relation. In addition to AB here, AC here, AD here, the 3 sides of the figure, you also have DB available, that's another interesting edge added, and you also have A to D as an edge. So 4 plus 1 plus 4, that's 9 ordered pairs that are present in the relation. We'll have to give the correct interpretation of the relation here, it is in fact reflexive because A is present, B is present, C is present, D is present. It is in fact reflexive. Given relation is actually reflexive and also antisymmetric. But can we call it as a transitive relation? Can we call as a transitive relation? That's the question before us. It actually happens to be transitive because AC and CD together will mean AC, CD together will mean that AD is present. AD is actually present. AD is the pair that you have here. AD is actually present. AC is present, CD is present, and hence AD is present. It's available, the edge is available, so that's why that won't be a problem to us. Let's try and write the matrix if that will help us. Now, can we call this relation as a reflexive relation? Yes, if you look at the diagonal, you see there is a 1 everywhere. So A, B, B, C, C and D, D are actually present. The problem is you have both this, we have the pair C, D and we have the pair D, B. These two overlapping components should together imply that another pair C, B is present, but that fortunately this number C, B here is absent. There is no pair called C, B. Hence the given relation is not transitive. Therefore this is not opposite. Okay, let's have a look at this interesting example. There are edges only between A and B and C and D. So you have a 4 by 4 matrix once again. A, B, C, D along the rows, A, B, C, D along the columns. Okay, you have A, you have AB, these two are absent. You have B, you don't have BA, you have BB, and you have, no, you don't have BC, you don't have BD. Looking at C and D, you see that there is an edge only from D to C, but not from C to D. So C to D is a 0, C to C is a 1, D to D is a 1. D to C tells that there is a 1 between the 4th row and 3rd column. DD is 1 implies the 4th row and 4th column is 1. This 1 implies the 3rd row and the 1st column is 1. The last one, D is equal to 0, implies the first one and the 3rd row and the 3rd column is 1. 3rd row, 4th column is actually a 0. You have the 2nd row, 1st column to be 0 and 2nd row, 2nd column to be 1. 2nd row, 3rd column is also 1. 2nd row, 4th column is also 0. Looking at the first row, you have only 2 ones, the others are zeros. Now let's classify this relation. Is this relation reflexive? It turns out to be reflexive because along the main diagonal all the entries we have are 1s. Now can we call this antisymmetric? Do we have enough evidence to call this antisymmetric? 1, 2 is present, 2, 1 is absent. Where else do we have a 1? 4, 4 is present and the opposite is absent. 4, 4 does not have its symmetric opposite. DC has a symmetric opposite in CD. CD is absent anyway. That won't be an issue. Therefore, you see that this is actually all of reflexive, antisymmetric, and also transitive. It is reflexive, it is antisymmetric, it is also transitive. Therefore, the given relation forms a partial ordering on the given set and the set is a poset. Got an introduction to a poset. We can proceed now and understand what is a chain. Two elements A and B are said to be comparable if they are related one way or the other. So either A should be related to B as in A R B or the other way B R A. When one of these two pairs AB or BA, when one of these two pairs is present, then we call AB as comparable. If both are present, it's well and good, they are still comparable. But when you don't have either AB or BA part of the relation, then the two elements are incomparable. That is, they are elements which are not related to each other, and such pairs of elements are what you will call as incomparable. On the other hand, if there is a poset S comma R where because any pair of two elements is always comparable, then that is going to be called as a totally ordered set or a chain. We will stick to the notation of a chain because it is easy to understand. Any two elements are always connected. That's what happens in a chain. When there are beads, they are always connected. You can always reach one bead from the other. When this is happening, we will call that poset as a chain. Next up, we will look at a couple of examples establishing the concept of a chain. The first one is on the set of all integers, and I say A is related to B if A is less than or equal to B. So what can be the ordered pairs that you will form? You will definitely have 1 1 because 1 is equal to 1. You will have 1 2, you will have 1 3, you will have 1 4, so on and so forth. And since the set of integers is actually infinite, let's not exhaust all of them. But you will never find a 1 0. 1 0 is not part, simply because of the fact that 1 is not equal to 0, 1 is not less than 0. Since both of these are false, you will never have 1 comma 0 or 1 comma any negative number. So that is the relation that we have. You can similarly build 2 2, 2 3. You will not have 2 1, etc. You can start with 3 3, 3 4 and build the relation up north. You will still find that A is always less than or equal to B, and that is why we have this poset before us. Let's try and verify if it is actually a poset, because you know that a poset needs to have a partial ordering, a relation that is all of reflexive, antisymmetric and transitive. Let's find out if it is actually reflexive, because you will always find 1 1, 2 2 and 3 3 as part of the set. You can actually claim that R is reflexive. You don't have to list every possible ordered pairs, but just the definition of the relation is enough for us to understand that the relation will remain reflexive, because any number is equal to itself, and therefore you will always find a pair like A comma A or B comma B. So R is reflexive. And number 2, R cannot be symmetric. That's the next thing, because being symmetric means that I have both 1 2 and 2 1 as part of the set, but I can have only 1 2 as part of the set. 2 1 cannot be part, because 2 is neither less than 1 or equal to 1. 2 is not less than 1, 2 is not equal to 1, 2 is greater than 1, so it is not symmetric. However, you will obviously see that R is also antisymmetric. Antisymmetric because for any two elements that are not equal to each other, if A and B are distinct, I will definitely have either A comma B or B comma A. That's because of the fact that any number is always lesser than or equal to some other number. So if you pick any two randomly selected integers, I will show you how to zero in on this or this. So when you have only one of the two ordered pairs present and never both, R is also going to be classified as an antisymmetric relation. And towards the last part, let's explore the possibility where this is also transitive, and that is very easy again. When I have AB, I mean A is less than or equal to B. When I have BC, I am going to mean that B is less than or equal to C. And since we are only comparing numbers, these two equations should indicate that A will always be less than or equal to C. So for two pairs AB and BC, we are able to show that a third pair is also present, and therefore you will see that R is reflexive, R is antisymmetric, and R is also transitive. And since we have a relation that ticks off all these boxes, you will see that this is not just a this is actually a poset. This is a poset in which any pair of elements is always comparable. You take any two elements, you will always see that they are comparable, because one element is always going to be lesser than the other element or equal to the other element. So you will always see that this is a pose set where any two elements are comparable. You can even call them as a totally ordered set. So the next example is on the pairs of 2, but the relation this time is very different. A is going to be related to B if and only if A divides B. What do we mean when you say A divides B? Because when you divide B by A, you mustn't get a non-zero remainder. We say 2 divides 8, we say 2 divides 10, we say 2 divides 100. In all these cases, the remainder that is left after subtracting the product of the quotient and the divisor is always 0. Hence, you will see that there are pairs that are available in this manner. So what we will see is A is related to B only when A divides B. By A divides B, as I told you before, we are simply meaning that B is a multiple, an integer multiple of A. That's what we are trying to say. Now we have 4 elements in our given set. Let's try and define the relation here. The relation says A is related to B only when A is less than or equal to B. So clearly I have 1 1, I have 2 2, I have 3 3, no I don't have 3 3, I have 4 4 and I have 8 8. Because they are by default part of the set, because it says A and B can be related if A is equal to B. A has been equal to B in each of these 4 pairs, and hence the relation is reflexive, and hence these pairs will be part of the set. Further, let's see if we can exhaust all possible pairs, because unlike the previous example, our set here is not infinite. It's only a finite set having 4 elements, and hence you can actually list all possible ordered pairs. So can we write 1 comma 2? Yes, we can write 1 comma 2, because 1 divides any other non-zero number. So 1 comma 2 is present, 1 comma 4 is also present, 1 comma 8 is also present, because 1 divides 4, there is no remainder left, 1 divides 8, there is no remainder left, and 1 also divides 2, there is no remainder left. And since all of this is being observed, we can see for ourselves that R is in fact reflexive. Next up, can we show whether R is symmetric or antisymmetric? Now clearly R has to be antisymmetric, because R cannot be symmetric. I cannot have 1 2 as well as 2 1 as part of the ordered pairs present in the set, because only one of the two can be present, because I am trying to say the first component divides the second component, and that happens only for one of the 2 pairs. It can't happen for both pairs. Either 1 divides 2 or 2 divides 1. This actually makes no sense. 2 cannot divide 1. 2 is a smaller integer, 2 is a larger integer in fact, 2 cannot divide 1. But 1 can divide 2, therefore you have only one pair. Similarly, you have 1 4 but not 4 1. You have 1 8 but not 8 1. That's all the set of all pairs where the elements are distinct, and therefore you will see that for any 2 distinct elements, only one such pair is present and the other pair is absent. Therefore the given relation is also antisymmetric. So we saw that it is reflexive, we are seeing that it is antisymmetric. What is left for us is to see whether this relation is also transitive. How do you show it is transitive? I have 1 2, I have 2 4, I also have 2 4, right? I have 2 4 but no 4 2. I also have 2 8, I also have 8 4 8. I have 1 2, I don't have 2 1. I have 2 4, I don't have 4 2. I have 1 8, I don't have 8 1. So whatever pair you select, you will always be able to see that only one of the 2 pairs that are possible is actually present. Both are never present together in the same set, and therefore this is antisymmetric. To check if it is transitive, let's pick 1 2 and 2 4. 1 2 and 2 4 should together imply that I also have 1 4 as a pair present, and 1 4 is actually there. Similarly 1 2 and 2 8 should mean I have a pair 1 8, and 1 8 is all I have. So that's pretty much it. and if you pick 1 4 and 4 8, you will have to see that 1 8 is also part of it. 1 comma 8 is also part of the relation. Therefore, for any three distinct elements, if the two pairs AB and BC are present, we always see that the third pair AZ is a part of the relation, and therefore our relation is also transitive. So we see that it is reflexive, we see that it is antisymmetric, we also see that it is transitive. Therefore the actual set forms a poset. But the question is about, do we have the property where any two elements selected at random being comparable always? That's pretty much possible, because in the set of ordered pairs that I wrote here, for any two elements I will have at least one pair. For 2 and 4 I have 2 4. For 1 and 8 I have 1 8. For 4 and 2 I have 2 4 again. For 8 and 1 I have 1 comma 8. For 2 and 8 I have 2 comma 8. For 4 and 8 I have 4 comma 8. So for any two elements that I select, I have this idea available before me. Therefore any two elements here, any two elements are always comparable, which means that they are related to each other in the form of a relation using a partial ordering. Therefore this set is a special poset where any two elements are always comparable, and that's why we call it as a chain. We'll call it as a chain. Now let's try a small exercise. We are considering the set of all non-zero integers which are related using the operation of division. So A is related to B only when A divides B. So in this case, can we claim or can we find out whether the pair of elements given here are actually comparable? You will see that 5 always divides 15 with a quotient of 3 and a remainder of 0. So 5 divides 15. So as long as 5 divides 15, I will have the ordered pair 5 comma 15 available to me. So A comma B together imply the pair AB is present. Therefore the first set of elements represent something that are comparable. 5 and 15 are in fact comparable. 5 and 15 are comparable because you find the ordered pair 5 comma 15 as part of the relation. How about 6 and 9? 6 and 9 actually have a greater common divisor in 3. 3 divides 6, 3 divides 9, but 6 doesn't divide 9. And since 6 doesn't divide 9, you will see that 6 and 9 are not comparable. They are not comparable. The last example, the last but one example is about 8 and 16, and you will always see that 8 divides 16. Of course 16 doesn't divide 8, so you don't have the other pair, but that's not necessary. Only one of the two pairs is mandatorily supposed to be present in the relation to call it as a chain. For 8 and 16 you find only one pair, the other pair is absent, that's okay. Therefore you see that 8 and 16 are comparable. And do we have 7 and 7? They are actually the same element, but we still see 7 dividing 7. Therefore 7 comma 7 is part of the relation. Therefore 7 and 7 are comparable. The next section that we will take up for discussion is a pretty interesting form to represent a relation pictorially. Some time back we also had a look at representing a relation using a digraph, but if you can recall, drawing a digraph can lead us to a representation that is not very clear. There are certain parts of the digraph which may look a little clumsy, but all that clumsiness can be gotten rid of if you are representing it in the form of a Hasse diagram. But remember, the Hasse diagram is a representation of only a poset. We cannot represent any system of a set under relation. This is possible only when A comma R, the non-empty set A on which the R is defined, when A comma R together form a poset. So whenever you have a poset available before us, you can always represent it using a Hasse diagram. Now on the next screen I'll give you an example, and thereby you will identify how simple or how efficient the designing of the representation has become. Right from what we had as a set notation to a matrix notation and to a digraph notation, comparing all these, you will see that representing it through a Hasse diagram is probably the most efficient methods of all. For that, you will have to follow 3 rules. Number 1, you don't have to draw any loops. By loops, I mean those edges which take a vertex to itself. This is what we call as a loop. It represents the order pair A comma A. So you draw a line from A back to A. So the first thing that you learn about Hasse diagrams is that you don't have to draw loops. That part is understood. Even if I don't draw a loop between 1 and 1, the property, the way in which I have defined my Hasse diagram will help me in identifying that the pair A comma A is always part of the given relation. So you will never draw any loops. And number 2, arrows whose existence are implied with the transitive property need not be drawn. So when I have AB as a one line and BC as another line, I don't have to draw the line AC. This is because of 2 reasons. Reason number 1, you already know that there is a partial ordering defined on the poset. When I say partial ordering, the relation is reflexive, antisymmetric and transitive. Therefore, you don't have to draw a separate arrow which shows that A and C are connected. And because we are restricting ourselves to expressing only posets, this can be done away with. And the last part, we don't have to represent directions on the arrows. That is no longer required, because the Hasse diagram will be constructed in such a way that the relation always goes from bottom to top. So whenever I draw a line, it is always from bottom to top. The direction is a part of the convention used to draw the Hasse diagram. Therefore, you are not required to indicate the direction using arrows.